Dualism is the view that fundamental reality, fundamental substance, is made of exactly two things. Dualism was introduced by René Descartes, recognized as the father of modern philosophy. In the Meditations on First Philosophy, Descartes sat down to articulate his theory of reality as well as his theory of epistemology, the study of knowledge. In there, Descartes argued that if he were to sit down and look inside of his mind to see which of his beliefs, his opinions, were most true and beyond doubt, he would find the ultimate truth, the ultimate sense of what is real, something that is true and cannot be doubted. As he began to look into his mind, he looked at three different areas. Things that he received, he believed in because they were information that came through the senses. He argued that these can be doubted because on occasion he had been deceived by his senses. He sees someone he knows at a distance. When he gets close, it's not that person. He also looked at things that come in virtue of the senses. For example, I am sitting here, I am aware of my hands, I can stamp on my foot on the ground, and I can hear the sound of my voice, so this tells me that I'm real. Certainly, I can have problems or issues in things that are away from me as occur sometimes. But certainly I couldn't doubt that I'm here, Descartes argued. But then he talks about having the same experiences, the same thoughts while he was asleep. So on this occasion, he argued he doesn't know if he's awake or asleep. It's called the dream argument. He didn't have any way to confirm to himself that he actually was awake. So he doubted everything that involved personal experience. It went further. Descartes said, I can doubt these things, but I cannot doubt, for example, the truth of mathematics. 2 plus 2 is 4, whether I'm awake or asleep. However, in the same category of mathematics, abstract entities, Descartes included another entity, namely God. Descartes said God exists whether I'm awake or asleep. I know that for certain. Okay? But then Descartes, for some reason, came to the conclusion that he didn't really have any proof for God's existence. Why God happened to be, this thing that had to exist necessarily. There turned out to be a problem in the category because God is the producer or creator of things. Okay? So Descartes thought he had to deal with this idea of God's existence. So Descartes says, I have no proof for the existence of God. I can consider the opposite, an evil genius equally as powerful as God. But it's all evil as opposed to all good. If I have no proof for God's existence, I don't need proof for the evil genius' existence. But the two cannot exist simultaneously, or I will be engaged in a contradiction. So therefore, logically, I have to doubt both of them. One or the other may be true, or both could be. One or the other may be false, or both could be false. Okay? And so Descartes then from that concludes that I doubted everything. Heaven and hell, things I've seen, my personal experience, except for one thing. I can't doubt that I'm a thing that thinks. And then he draws his conclusion. Cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. Thinking gives me an experience of my existence. However, each and every one of my thoughts can be completely false. The first thought I can raise in my mind that is necessarily true is that I exist, I am. This thought is always true every time I utter it, claims Descartes. His theory of metaphysics becomes based on these fundamental principles, that the most basic thing that we can know to be real, to exist, is our own existence. This begins the process of dualism. He has found something, and it was mind. Mind is seen by Descartes as an immaterial substance, a spiritual substance. Now Descartes, however, being a scientist and mathematician, wanted to give us back the world. So he then argued for the existence of God. God exists, therefore the world is real, even though on occasion we may be confused about what we see at a distance. God also creates minds and bodies, both material things, such as, branches, as well as human bodies. And God creates these two things, the bodies which are material and also minds which are spiritual. This is the concept of dualism, sometimes called Cartesian dualism. Philosophers who disagree with Descartes' proof for the existence of God are still left with the issue of dualism, because even if you put aside Descartes' proof that God exists, you're still left with the concept that somehow mind seems to be something permanent and unchanging, and the body seems to be changing. So the notion of dualism persists, independent of the notion of God. Two other philosophers who speak or try to correct, some say, Descartes' view on dualism was Spinoza and Leibniz. We will not be covering these two philosophers in this unit.